I felt and saw this presence of something like a ghost.
As I was reaching for my keys, something growled at me coming out of the basement.
It was bad energy. I was sort of feeling like I was letting Satan out of hell.
I saw out of the corner of my eye what I thought was the girl falling off the roof.
I couldn't think. It was so loud and I was so terrified that I just froze.
I'm not calling for that. I'm calling because I'm freaking out here.
I felt this presence trying to push itself down on top of me very violently.
It would not go away. It was freaking me out. I look at my arm and it's got a scratch on it.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Ghost of Greystone. My name is Clete.
I'm Chris.
And we are those Keith brothers, and we thank you for joining us tonight. And we've got a great show tonight. On our show tonight, this is going to be like three different locations?
We actually, yes, 3 locations within the set of 5 interviews.
Okay, so here's what's great about tonight. Physical attacks, apparitions, sounds, and orbs. In these 3 different locations.
And it's our 5th show.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're going to get right into it. Let's go into who's our first, who's up to bat first?
The first one, obviously we have the 3 locations. First up is the ladies' powder room.
Okay.
And you can talk about what they use the powder room for.
Yeah. And okay, so let's get into that first. So the ladies' powder room, which we used to call the ladies' lounge when we were working there, but the ladies' powder room, and it's if you come into the grand entry and go down the steps, just to the right is a door there, and that is the ladies' powder room. And I'm not sure what ladies' powder. To be honest,
that's actually in the book.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, I know that there's a history to that, but what are they powdering?
Keep going.
Okay, I don't know. That's why I'm single. But the point is this. Once, let's say back then and that day, it was the place to be. So when you went there, it was like high end. You had a location in which the ladies could go do whatever they do. And they also, it was a long drive probably then, remember back in the 20s. So if you're coming from quite some way, Pasadena, what have you, it would take some time to get there. And then you'd want to have some place to freshen up. And I don't know what...
Well, they used to have, the makeup used to be like a powder.
Oh, okay.
So I believe, you know how they'd have it, I don't know.
We don't know from that.
Yeah.
But we do know from paranormal. And who was up first? What happened to them first?
Ranger Che. He had a physical encounter?
Okay.
Is that right?
Yes. I love this. You're going to love this because Che came to me and told me about this. I'm not going to tip it, which I usually do. He told me about what had taken place. And my conversation with him is probably, I don't know, several weeks after this happened, because I said, wait a minute. You gotta show me. And he did. And he's going to tell you what took place right now.
All right. Here's Che.
Yep.
I was moving tables and chairs, putting back into the ladies' lounge where everything goes, normal routine. So that night when I got home, I noticed something on my right wrist. It looked like bruises, but it looked like burn. It looked like something. I could not figure out what it was. I even showed it to my wife, and she says, "You have a skin cancer." I got really worried. I looked up online, thinking that maybe it is a skin cancer, thinking it is age spots. I could not figure out for the longest time. I touch it, it doesn't hurt. It just looks like 2 bruises, like somebody held my wrist, held them really hard, and left the markings. It was the size of a, what is it? 2 inches square, circle, and then also like a 3-inch
on your forearm.
Yes, by the wrist. So that I even showed it to the co-workers, thinking, "Hey, God, I can't figure this out. Why I have this?" And they're making joke with me, saying, "Oh, the ghost grabbed you." from the mansion. And I'm like, no, don't be silly. So for a couple of days, I backtracked, thinking I must hit something, I touched something, I did something to answer my question what this is. So I had on my wrist, my arm, about a week, and again, that period of time, I'm still thinking, how did I get this? What is this? It's not going away. I push ointment, I put rubbing alcohol, I put whatever medication I needed to see if it go away. Still didn't go away. So I was determined to go to a dermatologist to ask, is this a skin cancer? And but all of a sudden, a week later, it just disappeared, as if nothing. But there was no pain, no burning, no nothing sensation, just the marks. It looked like somebody grabbed me, marking, and that's what it looked like.
Now, Chan said he had the same thing.
Correct.
I saw that photo.
Photo, yes.
Did it look like that?
Yes, it does. He did. But he's in his forearm, but mine was on the wrist, top and bottom. But his like when somebody grabbed his forearm, mine looks like somebody grabbed my wrist and held it pretty tight. But there was no pain. No pain, just the marks.
Because he said he was, I think, moving stuff in the ladies' lounge or what have you as well.
Correct. I was moving the same thing too, chairs and tables, putting things back. So that's why I was backtracking. Did I hit myself? Did I bang myself? But still, if I did, I'll be hurting because it'd be bruises. But it was not. It was no bruise. It was just a mark.
So working that day at Greystone, how long before you noticed?
That night.
That night.
Yeah. And that when I got home, I'm looking at. I was washing up. I'm going, oh, that's odd. What is this? Marks. I was trying to figure out from that night on to see what it was, how I got it. I still can't explain it, how I got this, but it just appeared by itself. Again, it didn't hurt, no burning. It was just
no pain.
No pain at all. It was just a mark, like a bruise, and somebody grabbed me.
So what do you think it was? Honestly, what do you think it was?
Something from the Greystone grabbed my wrist. A spirit or something, but it came from Greystone Mansion when I was working.
Again,
wow.
So sorry about the sound.
Where was that recorded? Where did you have the interview?
That was at Greystone.
Up top by the mansion?
Could have been, or down by the gatehouse maybe.
Yeah, it was probably gatehouse.
Yeah, so
loud.
Remember, we didn't plan on ever using these publicly. It was just for my information to do the book. So, but what he, obviously what he said was, and I saw he had photographs of it that he deleted, so I couldn't use them in the book.
Shoot!
But it was a grip right here. And then underneath was probably like this. Mm-hmm. And then underneath you had two bruises, and they were like purple bruises. And all he could remember was moving the stuff in the ladies' lounge. And it's pretty fascinating if you think about it, that how can a spirit, because I said, after another conversation, did you bump into something? You think maybe, or you lifting something? He goes, no, I never did that. I'm, wow, okay. Because it was a really like a purple bruise. And he didn't really tell you too much on this part, but that he was getting razzed by
Chan.
And others.
Oh
yeah, hey, ghost grab you. Oh, and Chan was laughing at him, saying, you always think it's paranormal. You always think it's paranormal. Well, then it turned out that something else happened, and Chan got his. Why don't you give it a play?
Right.
For you?
Number 2.
Yeah.
We have a fog event. While I was there, we were setting up for the event inside the mansion. All the tables and cocktail chairs are in the ladies' lounge closet. During the setup, we split out the tables and chairs in the courtroom, library, and there were other red chairs in the other closet. After about an hour and a half of setup, I went over to the restrooms to kind of rinse my hand off the dirt, and there was a little dirt that covers my forearm, closest to the wrist. As I washed that out, I noticed a bruising, about a thumb-sized bruising. It doesn't hurt. I didn't notice it was there that early morning or the day before. I just noticed after I washed my hand, there was that bruising. The color was not pink, but it was not dark purple. It was more like a plum color. Unusual for a bruise, a fresh bruise that I know of. And one of my coworker, Che, had the same color bruising about a month ago.
And he showed you...
And he showed me that color, and I saw the bruising. It was thumb size on his arms, on his forearm by his wrist either. So when I saw my bruising, I thought back on his bruising. He says the same bruising. I don't know if this is the same.
Well, would you say we can't say entity because we don't know, but maybe the same process took place in order for you to get that bruise that got his bruise.
That's correct. Yes.
So, but was he up at Greystone at the time when he got the bruise as well?
As he recalled, he doesn't know where he got it, but he told me that he was at Greystone also.
Do you know if he was in the ladies' lounge?
He doesn't recall where, but he knows he was there doing sort of some setup too.
Same thing, setting up for an event.
Setting up, yes.
Okay. And did the bruise or what looked like a bruise hurt at all?
It doesn't hurt. You know, it's not tender. It doesn't bother me. I don't recall bumping my hand or getting my arm pinched anywhere. That bruising is more like if you were to bump your hand hard at something. But if it did, I should recall, yes, I bumped real hard, or something had fallen, or I guess wedged between the table or something. I should felt my arm being that, but nothing. I have felt bruised before on my knees, my arm, but in that size, something had to happen. I mean, like hard, something like a hard impact that will give you that type of bruising. But even though those type of bruising will become tender and red, but this is more of a sort of a black, red plum kind of look color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not like a pink or a day-old bruising, which looks like almost blue and purple, but it's not. I don't know if it's something called a ghost bruising or, you know, sort of that.
It's like there's no explanation.
There's no explanation for that, but it's kind of odd. If my coworker had that a month ago, same arm, and he has a bruising which he doesn't know how he got it. You know, and then I was making fun of him, but then now it happened to me at the Greystone Mansion, and I don't know how I even got that bruise. So even he can't explain how he got that bruise. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
I mean, that's pretty crazy. And he had a photo. So Chan had the photo that we actually put in the book. But he has the photo of it, and it's
like a sizable bruise. Yeah, it's 2.5, 3 inches
on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh man, and with no pain. And that's kind of the key. Is what he was saying is, it happened overnight. So suddenly he's got a bruise. Never felt hitting anything.
Right.
That's what I talked to Chade.
But you talked to him and you asked him if he remembers, like he was doing the tables and the chairs, if he bumped anything, and he said he would know if he did that hard.
Yeah, because I did that with him as well, right? I would always move, and that was part of the thing as being a ranger. When we did events, we bring out these, huge tables, 8-foot tables, 6-foot tables sometimes, and you would always get slammed on there. You'd knock them and hurt. But so when you hurt your arm or hands or whatever it was, they didn't feel anything, and it really looks like a substantial bruise. It looks bad because even when he showed me the photo, I went, oh my God, you didn't feel it? He goes, no.
Why did he take a photo?
because he was freaked out. Like, what is that?
Oh.
And I think Che did. I think I told you Che did, but I think he got rid of the photos or what have you. But he told me that it was like Chan's.
Yeah.
And a month apart in the same location.
Did Che ever? He saw Chan's bruise, right? Che actually saw that.
Yes.
After. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Did he say that looks like mine? Or
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you justify that. You really can't. If you think about it. And is it by a spirit or ghost? You know, that's why I said you can't say it's an entity, but what else could it be at that location?
Yeah. Right.
Don't say. What is there? Is there more? Do we have another one?
We are moving to the formal dining room.
Oh, okay.
And Lou's outside the dining room.
Ah, this is great. This corroborates another story that we did. I think it was episode 2. You remember the story? Luz Rodriguez was outside the terrace cleaning the windows. Remember that? She was cleaning the windows. She looked in. She goes, "Oh my God!" And she saw this guy standing in there. Right. Well, this time she's in the dining room. Shall we move forward, please?
Oh, sure.
Let's do
Number
that.
3.
Yep.
Again, because, see how everything gets handprints on them?
Mm-hmm.
So I was wiping down the windows and I was making my way in here.
Okay, on the
and
terrace.
As I started to walk towards this door, he was standing in here, just looking out. And he was a little bit closer, but still it was see-through. I could see through him, and he was wearing the same thing, like black. They were like black pants and a red smoking jacket. And I was just like, okay, Ned, that one that really scared me. I turned around and I walked back, and then I thought maybe someone was in the house, but I was like, no, they wouldn't be see-through, Yeah, like I couldn't see his shoes. It was like he was not fully materialized almost. My mom would tell me, don't be afraid. They're not going to hurt you if be afraid of the living, not the dead.
It's a great comment.
It really is.
But
Mom's
let's
very
be honest.
smart.
Yes, she's very smart, but she wasn't there with her. Don't be afraid of the
Yeah. Easy to say when you're not standing in the mansion.
I'm telling you, man, and that's the second time for Luz that she saw the same apparition.
The smoking jacket she saw in the murder room. Is that right?
No.
Where was that? Where did she see
in the
it?
Grand Hall. Remember, she's
Grand
out
Hall.
in the terrace.
Episode 2.
Yeah, so she's looking and seeing him in the Grand Hall there, right outside the card room.
Oh,
that's
right.
This time is the formal dining room.
Wow.
There's a door at the southwest end that is leaded glass again, and she's out there cleaning it. And so when you at that door, you can see right into the dining room, and he's standing there. And the great thing is, she says that he was see-through. So she goes, "So who's in that?" Wow. Well, wait, it wouldn't be see-through. So she saw a lot of apparitions, and we'll get into that later. She also saw Lucy, Mrs. Doheny.
Don't give it all away.
No, I'm just saying.
Do you know, does her mom have the gift? Do you know her?
Didn't ask her that. Didn't ask her that. Because I wasn't aware of that until I started walking her around. And then she was touched and voices came through. And I mean, it surprised me. I had no clue. And I've said this before, the amount of people that have worked at Greystone or are still working at Greystone have the gift, have the ability to sense, hear, feel, smell, all that stuff, and Luz big time. So she's a ranger, and we have a lot of rangers on the program because they're the ones with access to the mansion. They have the keys. They have to go in there. The public usually doesn't go in unless it's an event or something like that. So the only ones that really go in there were the rangers, or if I was working an event and I wasn't a ranger, but I was doing logistics or what have you inside the house, I could have access to it. But other than that, nobody really goes in. So for her to be someone just like Martin. Remember Martin talking about the banging and the people?
Sure.
For her to have to go inside there, and she had the sink knobs turn on her.
Did she ever tell you that she was really scared? Because she doesn't sound scared at all.
Well, she said on this one that really scared me to see, because he was see-through, then she knew it wasn't a real. It wasn't a person. So it's kind of like well, not really, but I was going to say like Chan, which we'll get into later. I keep going.
That's okay.
Jumping. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Speaking of jumping,
yes,
we're going to go right to the breakfast room.
Well, okay, we're jumping.
And tell me about Chad. He was a ranger, right?
Chad was a ranger. So Chad was someone that I didn't know. He was a ranger prior to my being there. So I'm guessing in the 90s. And throughout this whole process, when I started to get into writing all this, I just wanted to write down my stories of my tour.
Right.
Just do that before I left. And then it became, well, I better talk to Steve Clark, then Dan and Juan. And then other people are saying, well, then you better talk to such and such.
Who suggested Chad?
I
Nelson.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't remember. But there's like Chad Nelson, Brennan Knight. There's Liddy and Glenn Gregory. Sorry, Glenn Gregory. All these people just started coming.
Samantha Gorman. I mean, they're band.
Yeah. So they were turned on to us, which was great. And then they would turn us on to another person. And I think Brooke was the one who turned us on to Brennan Knight.
Yes.
Right?
She was.
So I met, on the phone, talked to Chad and said, hey, and he had several stories that happened to him. This one happened to be different than most. We've had some stories that are kind of the same apparitions. Oh, you see this and that. This was a different one. This was an odd one. And this is the breakfast room, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the breakfast room, and I'm going to let him tell you the story. But this is really wild. Listen to what happens to him.
This is a trip.
Yeah.
I remember this distinctly. This is like something out of The Shining. I opened up, it was in the morning, and I go downstairs, and I heard like this cocktail party going on. I hear like this echoey sound of glasses clinking and low conversation and like old-timey music playing off towards where the kitchen was, and I'm like in the breakfast room in that area, like when you go in the door and go down the steps way off to the left. And I heard this, and I'm like, what on earth? And I thought maybe they were setting up something, or there was a crew there. But then I didn't see any camera trucks, I didn't see any catering trucks, I didn't see anything outside. So I'm thinking, what's going on? So I started walking towards it, and I noticed as I got closer and closer, the sound of it didn't, as you would expect, get louder. It just stayed the same. It didn't get lower or louder. It just stayed the same kind of low, sing-songy, low sound. And I kept getting closer and closer and closer to what I presumed was the source of the sound, and didn't change. And then when I got to where I believed the sound was coming from, it just stopped.
Wow. Do you remember what kind of music it was? Was it old-time music or current?
Old-time, like 30s music.
Wow. We've heard that as well. Other guys have heard the same thing.
Okay. Like muffled trumpets, stuff you'd hear from the 30s.
Right.
That kind of music. That I remember distinctly.
I just love this so much.
Oh, I wish I could have heard that.
Oh, is that the greatest thing? So, yeah, and there are other stories that we'll get into down the line that relate to kind of like this, but just the fact that they're still in there living a life in the era in which they lived.
Yeah,
That's what
it appears to be. My question to you is, do you know, did they have any, at the time, did you ask them if they had any event, anything going? I know if he's walking in, he's doing the ranger duties and he's seeing what's going on. Why is there music in there? So there's nothing going on. But you think it would be somebody outside, or could it be anything like that?
Okay, yes, you can think of it that way. But as a ranger, what events are going on.
Yeah.
And that's what he says.
And expect it. You would expect.
Listen, it was substantial enough to where he thought the music was loud enough where he thought there might be film trucks there. There might be an event happening within the home. And the fact that he gets closer and it doesn't get louder is awesome, because that states that it's in the ether of the home.
Right.
And I've heard that as well with other people, that it didn't get louder, it just stayed the same, even though I got closer.
Yeah, that's a tricky one because then it's kind of surrounding you.
Yeah.
There's no location or
right
distance.
Yeah, and also, you know, for it to be a party atmosphere, and you're saying, well, could it have been somebody outside possibly and all that stuff? Well, what are the chances are, let's say it was outside, which I don't think it was, but let's say it was outside.
Right.
And he gets to the breakfast room and it stops. What are the odds that that would happen? If they're outside, somebody's partying, doing the whole thing outside, hang on, they're doing all that, and suddenly he steps into the breakfast room and it stops. There's another story we're going to get into, and it's a couple episodes down, kind of the same thing in a way, where it just stops and things were happening.
Different, obviously different room? Different area, it has to be.
It was down in like I think it was near the first floor servants' hall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. With Ranger Clark.
Oh, Steve.
Yeah. So
love that guy.
Yeah.
Great stories.
Yeah, he has great stories.
And they're not stories.
They're listen to you.
Well,
you heard this? Did you hear?
I
what
might
he
have
just
made a
said?
mistake there. No, to him, because he's so credible and so believable and such a straight shooter that this guy, he doesn't make this stuff up. There's no reason for anybody. Because remember before, when you were doing when you were going to the people and getting interviews, it was for you to document. Nobody knew we were doing a book.
No.
As a matter of fact, we didn't even know at the start that we were doing a book. And once we did, we didn't tell them. We would just say, well, we don't know what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it would always be after the interview. I mean, they had no clue.
Right.
They were just going on record
Yeah.
to tell what their experience was about.
Yeah, because I was planning on leaving just to be a full-time writer, and I wanted to just get those stories that I remembered, and then it became, you know, obviously midway through it was like, no, I'm going to write a book about this because there's so many people coming forward. But like Chad is no less credible. I mean, he's like, you know what I mean? Than Steve is what I mean. But this guy, straight shooter. I don't know him.
Yeah.
So he's just telling his story like, oh, you want to hear what happened? Well, here's what happened. I would go in, and then it became a theme of everybody that, especially here's another ranger that I would talk to, was saying, hey, I had a morning where I went in one time, and that's how this started the snowball.
Right. But there were some that would not go on the record.
Yeah.
They didn't want to be looked at as a kook.
Yeah.
If it ever got out. I mean,
yeah,
a couple of those.
And it's really too bad because there was a police officer, I'm not going to say anything, but he had something incredible happen to him, didn't want to talk about it.
We had a district attorney.
District attorney who was still, I'm guessing, yeah, he still is because I looked him up, by the way.
Okay.
He still is a district attorney. I'm not going to tell you where, but he wouldn't talk to us. And he had an event that was unbelievable that happened.
And we have some in the book, but that we couldn't. Most went on record, but there were some that wouldn't do that. So I think, did we have everybody? Did we use everybody's name, or did we have any that would? No, we used initials and stuff.
Well, yeah, and yeah.
Right.
I almost said his name.
Yeah.
But there was a police officer that you hear about, didn't want his name.
Right.
But he actually was kind enough to do the interview. And the majority of these people, we'll move on in a second, but the majority of these people that I wanted to talk to, I wanted to get them to Greystone because I wanted them to feel that area again, like the police officer who's a great guy. Love this guy. I got him to come in, and he was having problems just stepping inside the mansion.
It's a whole different gig when they're there.
Whole different gig, and he goes, God, you'll hear it. And then going down to the basement, man. And after a while, and I don't know if it's in there, but he's like, I got to get out.
Yeah.
He couldn't take it.
It is. I think I remember building the show.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So listen, you get the people in there, Brigitta, you get the people in there at the location in which they had their paranormal event, and their eyes change, their demeanor, their breathing changes. And that's what I want, not to be an evil person.
Because you are.
Well, let's not go there. But
all for the show, all for the book.
No, for this show. See, he's all about the book. I'm about this show. I'm about you. So we're going to move on.
All right.
because that was Chad. Now there's one other.
In the breakfast room, we have Brennan Knight, and he had a problem alarming the mansion.
Right,
apparently.
right. And we talked about Brennan earlier through Brooke. I was able to contact him, and he once again was a ranger.
And who is Brooke?
Brooke Pacone was a woman that was in episode 2 who was in the, do you remember she was in the Grand Hall and she was seeing this apparition outside the west door, in the white go across the door? God, that was great.
That was a great one.
I had her inside the mansion too. Had her.
Was she getting nervous when she talked about it? Well,
nah, she's pretty, although, because she holds herself together very well,
right.
But she was, you could see in her face, she's kind of like, she's a lot of energy, and she's like, but I remember seeing, and I'd ask her questions, and she'd say, no, Clete, no, because I remember she was really into it.
Yeah.
But Brennan had several stories, some really cool stories, too. He has one up in the attic that's just wild. And this one was, like Chris said, it was a night where he had to alarm and get out. And let's just hear what he had to say.
That's a good idea.
Like I remember standing ready to lock up, and so everything's closed off. And I think it's a new alarm system, but back then you had green lights to indicate all zones that were closed, and it wouldn't, of course, let you set the alarm until you had the green light. And one of the things that would come off would be the motion sensor in the middle, and that's actually not uncommon.
I'm sorry to do this to you, but there is a motion detector in the Grand Hall that goes from like...
Is it one end to the other?
Yeah. So it's not all the way to the end. From what I remember, I think it might have been, but from what I remember, it was from... There's an area where it used to have doors. That would be the murder room, then the door that we talked about with Brooke. At the up top there... Right there, so it's just it's the west end of the hall, and then all the way down, I think it is to the breakfast room. It was a beam, so that's what he's talking about. That the beam that shows as a motion detector, so that if anything moved, and when it was working, it doesn't work anymore, I don't believe, but when it was working, it would go off. It would definitely go off and capture whatever was moving in between. You'd see that light go blip.
So the green lights were for all the windows, doors. When that was all alarmed, it would be good.
Yeah. You'd see it on the panel.
Okay.
It would let you set the alarm.
And the motion detector is simply for if anybody's in there.
Or if things are moving, it will state. A lot of times, it will state what area in which things are moving.
Which area in the hallway?
No, if it's just the Grand Hall.
Oh.
It'll state like Grand Hall or basement and all. This is the old alarm.
Oh, I see. They had more than you mean the actual alarms or the motion detector? Because the motion detector, would there more than one area with the motion detector?
I don't believe so. I think it was just the hall, just the Grand Hall.
Right.
And then the other areas were like windows and things that they go, oh, it's ajar. Right. So there were magnets and stuff that would connect on the windows. So it
very simple, but it was still.
Yeah. So that's what he's talking about as far as the motion detector goes in the Grand Hall.
Okay.
Because whether there's movie material or some set stuff or a camera dolly or occasionally they just because of the set design they would put curtains or something, so it wasn't uncommon to see that flicker. But in this particular case, it was being sensitive and it wasn't allowing me to lock it. So I went down and I don't know if they've increased, I'm sure they've increased the technology, but back then it was just a line of sight from one end of the hall to the other. So if you walk down the main door and you can either go down the long hall on the right or the long hall on the left, that's a pretty long expanse. And there was nothing like suits of armor or, there was nothing or curtains. There wasn't, in this particular case, there wasn't anything that could do anything to get in the way. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And I would go back up to the panel and it would still blink, right? And so I'm like, okay. At that point, I'm doing the self-speak again. I'm like, okay, whoever this is, I'm trying to write. I got to go home. I got school to do. Knock it off, right? I go back down the stairs, and by this time everything's out, and I've got the flashlight. And that's when I definitely saw nothing definitive, but clearly a source of energy. Light's probably the wrong word, but but something that differentiated itself from the normal background, continually going back and forth from the kitchen to what is like the breakfast area. And it happened for about 5 minutes where I couldn't set the alarm. I mean, there was clearly like a pacing, and it would just go in one room, and then you'd wait a few minutes, it would turn around and go back to the other one. And I'm just like, come on, really? You know, really? And you know, I wasn't, you know, in any hurry to walk down there and tell him not to do it, right? But so it was fortunate before I felt like I was just gonna, you know, okay, I'm gonna resolve myself to have to go yell or scream or something. Then it sort of went away. But that one really stood out because that was probably the only time there was always evidence and doors things, but it was something that you ever physically saw. It was always not around. But that one was clearly, okay, this is, you know, go get ghost hunters tools and set them up there and you'll see something there, you know, some energy.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and what I love so much about this one is that we also had Lisa Williams, who was a very well-known British psychic who was awesome. She showed up one night. That should have been in the show, actually. Just to do her show. Good. And she went into the kitchen with the crew. I was there with the crew late night. She walked in there and she said, "Oh my God, there's a woman in here who is very upset with us because she's working and she doesn't want us to be in here. And she's going back and forth and back." Just like what Brandon said, she's going from the kitchen doing her duties and going and serving. They're still in that world. They're still.
But what did Brendan see? It was just a light.
Well, he's saying it was like something radiated a light. Now he didn't want to say light or orb or what have you, but I think in essence what he was suggesting was something that had I don't know what the word is.
Emanated light?
Yeah, emanate. Perfect. Emanated a light, a source of energy from
But no shape, no human shape.
No, he said he had said before to me that it was like a size of a Frisbee, but it wasn't a Frisbee.
No.
It was just some kind of light that he didn't really know what the shape of it specifically was. But imagine that. So, and he's talking about there might be movie equipment in there, and that's what he's talking about. That might let's say there wasn't air conditioning back then, but let's say wind. There was all the windows are closed, but if something moved, that would cause the
he was talking about the curtains, armor curtains.
Yeah.
And it's like in that place, curtains didn't even move, and especially if they were heavy curtains.
Yeah.
If they were super light, maybe you had the card room doors open and the windows open, it would move.
Yeah.
But there was no air movement in that place at all.
No, which reminds me of another story we'll hear down the line about curtains that do move.
Oh, okay.
So and what Chris is saying is it's dead in there. All the windows, everything's shut. They do have air conditioning now, which does go on sometimes at night.
Yeah, but not back then.
No, not back then. So it is dead, and here's this thing. I mean, imagine. So you have to go down the alarm is right by the front door, just to the left of the front door. So you're looking to alarm it, and you're going, oh, something's moving or stopping it. You go down those steps, the grand entry steps, to the grand hall. He looks left, and here he's seeing this thing emanating light back and forth. 5 minutes? That's unbelievable. Back then, I wish you'd have a camera or your phone then. Back then, you could just kind of video this light. It's astounding to me. I don't think we had anything else like that, any other story like. That's why I love this so much, because there's so many different stories. Not the same thing. I saw the guy in the window. The same thing.
Yeah,
like that.
right. Well, even that would be interesting if different people saw the same guy in the window. I mean, that's
yeah.
But it's not the same story. There's so many. It's so varied.
Yeah, it's not an apparition in that same window.
Right.
These are different party sounds, bruises, and here he is seeing this light emanating from room to room. I love that, man. I love it. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We're done already.
Did we mention at the beginning about the mystery sound? Did we forget that again?
We did. But we're horrible at this. But we're gonna do a mystery sound. We're gonna do that now, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
So as you know, if you followed us for the other shows, I've done tons of recordings, hundreds of recordings. So I've picked out some of the recordings that I love, and we just do it just for fun at the end of the show, and just so you can hear some of the things.
We discuss it and see what it is.
And we can talk about it. Yeah.
All right.
Well, why don't we do that?
All right. Here it is.
Okay. So that's.
Well, I want to hear that again.
Go for it. Now, do you hear how heavy that is? It sounds like
it's very solid. It's very solid. Do you know where? You don't remember where the recorder was placed? For this one?
It had to be second floor landing.
Okay.
I almost every night was there.
Oh,
very rarely did I did put it down in the basement sometimes, but that almost sounds. Now, when I do these recordings that I mark them down, as sick as I am, I sit there and I listen to it and I go, oh, that's a double. So we had doubles and triples. We're going to play a triple in a show coming up, but. That sounds like a heavy. I don't.
Well, it's definitely on not marble. It's on wood. Sounds like so. It would be second floor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So where? And what is that? It sounds heavy. I mean, I've had recordings where it sounds like a cart rolling. Well, I was like, what is going on? What? And that bum. There are other recordings that sound almost like it's coming from the basement, like I don't know what they are.
And this is a time of night. Too bad we didn't mark down that, but it's always late at night. It's always
very, I don't.
Very late.
None of these are like 5 o'clock in the day, and the ranger's saying later because it would be maybe somebody outside or the guy's cleaning up, whatever. These are usually like 2 in the morning.
Right. And if you're not familiar with Greystone, it's surrounded by a gate, and there's nobody in the park at night, and the cops do patrol it and all that, but it's a huge, it's 12, 13 acres or whatever it is.
They lock it off. It's 18 acres.
Yeah, people aren't running around trying to get in the mansion, and they would.
No. And doing hundreds of recordings, and I've listened to all these, I start to get used to what is what. And I'll go, oh, I know what that is. That's probably Mario taking out the trash, because the guys do come late after the park's closed, 10:30 or whatever, and you get to know that, and you hear their car, the truck.
It's pretty easy to find that,
Yeah, but some of these I go, I have not heard that one before.
I want to hear it one more time.
One more time. Isn't that wild? It's 2.
And it doesn't repeat. It's ding, ding.
Right. It's not the same thing you're hitting. It's a different, maybe 2 different things, and it's 2. Like if it were 1, you go, oh, maybe that was, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, but maybe that was something. But then when you have 2, it's like, oh, something moved something twice. So, yeah, I love those.
It's pretty
man.
exciting.
I love those, yeah. There's tons of them. I got tons of them. So,
if you like the show, make sure you subscribe, ring the bell. If you have any comments, leave them below. We would love to hear some comments because we're always looking at that. And if you have any comments about Greystone, if you've ever had an experience at Greystone, we really want to hear that.
Yeah, please.
Leave those. Or if you don't feel comfortable leaving them in the notes, then get a hold of us through ghostsofgreystone.com. That's our website, ghostsofgreystone.com. And send us a note about your experience. If you want to be on the air at all, if you want to talk about your experience, if it's at Greystone, we prefer that.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
And also, just so you know, we don't really do this that much, but we do have a book that's available.
We've forgotten for 4 shows. To even mention it.
So here's the deal. You'll hear
salesmen. We are salesmen.
Yeah. Okay, but you'll hear, I don't know how many shows we're going to do. You'll hear these stories from these people, but the book has like 87 different people and
86 people, 86 different interviewees, and 237 stories.
So if this
520 pages.
Wow! If this interests you and you want to go, hey, maybe at night I like to sit and I don't want to see these faces anymore. You can read the book, and if you get it from our site, which is www.ghostsofgreystone.com. Yeah, we're going to give you a couple little extras. We'll ship it for free too.
Yep.
Just like Amazon ships for free.
And we'd love to. And Clete will sign the book.
I will.
And do a little inscription for you too.
There you go.
And he'll do a personal one if you want. Just leave it in the. It's in the form when you sign up for the book.
And what is the next show? Forget all that. What's the next show?
The next show is Historic Kitchen.
Ooh, and let me tell you something about Historic Kitchen. We're going to talk about voices.
Sure.
And
yeah, we are.
The moving and the missing. I'm just going to say that. That's all I'm going to say.
What, you mystery tonight?
Mystery.
Oh.
The moving and the missing. You'll understand when you hear that. And all this being said, it really, to me, it comes down that just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
100 horses in 5 freight trains couldn't drag me into that early grave. I've cashed in the mistakes I've made while God rode shotgun from 1,000,000 miles away. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say, but this ain't that time, and this ain't that day. With the heart of a gypsy and the eyes of a child, I walk these fields and let my love grow wild. Filled with fever, I dare my desire. Don't fear the flame, I walk through the fire. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say, but this ain't that time, and this ain't that day. I'll keep riding till the trail grows cold, where the hillsides burn, amber and smoke. The sheep and the shepherd are lost on different roads, blinded by hate, blinded by hope. I don't